What's going on, guys? I missed y'all. It's been so long since I made a video, but I really wanted to come in here and answer some questions about the 0 to 10K a day series that I put up. By the way, if you haven't seen the 0 to 10K a day video, there's going to be a link in the description to where you can actually watch it. So if you haven't seen it, this video is going to make no sense to you and you're going to want to go and watch it. I'm doing this to provide value while my ads are down, which kind of sucks, but whatever. But I have some questions pulled out of the YouTube comments and some questions that I saw in the Facebook comments and people just messaging me and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that I can cover, but I took out probably the questions that I think are most important, me personally. So, and these ones cover a lot of things, and this video might get a little bit long. But I'm going to do my best to kind of read them off here and answer them as best as I can. So the first question is, which this one was asked maybe once or twice, but I think it's an awesome thing to address because there's so many things that go into it, is why did you do 2 different campaigns for interest in the beginning rather than doing them all in one campaign? Which I don't know if you guys remember, but basically there were 2 different campaigns just for cold interest targeting, as opposed to there just being one and me stacking them all into one campaign. Now, the main reason that I did this was because the first campaign that we had was the one that we originally started with, which basically we started with, 7 ad sets, $10 a day budgets, just kind of the normal thing. And then after that, we started adding 1 new ad set a day and getting rid of the old ones, which I don't even think we had any old ones or bad ones to get rid of. I think they were all doing good. But regardless, this goes back to one of my old methods of adding 1 new ad set a day and not exceeding that. This is basically so that the campaign is always consistently being added to, which in my opinion makes the whole campaign consistent, as a whole campaign, right? So, because there's just something like, if I just let a campaign run and just don't touch it, especially with cold interest, most of the time it'll just kind of fade off into not being profitable anymore, which is what I try to avoid by creating 1 new ad set every single day. And obviously an added bonus to that is basically, finding new interests that work. But going on to the reason, I do not create more than 1 ad set per day per campaign. Plus, at the time, I saw a big pattern of, launching a product, it doing really, really well in the first 3 to 4 days, and then moving forward, it would kind of slow down and die out or whatever. So these sort of re-spark campaigns are basically what I started doing when I saw the original campaign doing good for like 5, 6, 7 days-ish. And the reason for this is so that the campaign wouldn't slow down. Like, a lot of people have a new product test that they do, and it'll do really good for 4, 5, 6 days, and then it'll start slowing down. This pretty much eliminates that. As in, you're kind of coming in and you're re-sparking it, right? Like, you're kind of relighting the match, however you want to think of it. But that's why I create 2 cold interest campaigns in the beginning. Basically because, starting with that many ad sets kind of gives it a spark that creating 1 ad set per day doesn't really give it. So that's mainly the reason, and obviously plus it gives you more interest to work off of. So this was something that a lot of people didn't understand why I did it, but that's kind of the reasoning behind it. So the next question is, why didn't you break down by country and you just left it on worldwide the whole time, even when I was doing lookalikes? So basically, when you have a campaign or a product or something doing this well, I personally don't like messing with things too much in terms of, gender, age, demographics, locations, all those sorts of things. I just like to leave it for as long as I can. And the main reason for this is because I've seen more times than not, when you start going into breaking down campaigns and trying new things, the old things will kind of die out. And this goes for lookalikes, this goes for breaking down by age, gender, all that stuff. I just don't like messing with stuff. Like, worldwide was working for us, so that's really what I wanted to stick with. And, there is a turning point where it's like, okay, well, worldwide isn't working anymore. I'm going to transition into a single country or multiple country campaign. But that time just didn't happen for us. The worldwide just never slowed down. And when it did slow down, I didn't really get it on camera because it was after I launched the video. But when it did slow down, we tried multiple country campaigns, and that didn't really bring it back. Like, it kind of got messed up from the pixel or whatever, which we'll get into later. But that's basically the reason, is because worldwide was working so well, I didn't want to mess with it at all. Like, why change something that's working? And it was working really, really well at that. Like, if you have something that's working then I can see a reason as to why you would want to switch it up and try single country or try breaking down and stuff. But this was, keep in mind that this was like a 5+ ROAS product on almost every single campaign. So we really didn't have a reason to. And that's exactly why, is because if we kept on changing stuff, then, what's the point of doing all the testing in the beginning? The next question, which is probably my favorite one because it was kind of a funny situation, which is, why did you wait so long to do retargeting? Because it was a lot of time between when we started the product and when we started retargeting. Obviously the video is not long, but in terms of like the amount of days that passed. And the main reason is because with retargeting, I usually see retargeting campaigns being about 50% more profitable on a good day than the cold traffic. And when we were looking at the campaigns and deciding like what's the next campaign that we could make next, what's the next best move to make right now, it was never retargeting, because the cold traffic was doing so good that, I mean, it was more worth it to just do another cold traffic campaign than to go into retargeting. And that doesn't mean that we weren't going to do it. It just meant that, we had to take advantage of how good the cold traffic was doing at that moment. And retargeting, it just limits the spend because our audiences weren't that big until we did start it. And we were way better off starting like a new CBO or a new cold traffic campaign, or just something to actually scale rather than trying to make more off of the audience. This is funny because a lot of people say, well, why can't you do both? Why can't you do a cold traffic campaign and retargeting? We were not following that methodology. We were basically making a new campaign every 7 days. And then towards the end, like when we started getting a lot of that exponential growth, we started doing it every 4 days. And then when we started lookalikes, we did it every 2 days. So we were working on a limited schedule, mainly just to limit the amount of jerks that happen to the ad account. Like, I don't like making too many campaigns, too many ad sets, that like, I know that Facebook is very sensitive with that kind of stuff. So I just don't mess with it at all. And that's really the reason, was for one, if we were going to make one campaign every 4 to 7 days, it had to be worth it. And retargeting was just never worth it at the time. I think even if we were making, one campaign per day, it still would not have been worth creating a retargeting campaign, because literally the cold traffic was so profitable. The cold traffic was basically like retargeting would have been, if that makes sense, except you can spend more on cold traffic. This question I got a lot, which is weird because I also do it right now as well, which is testing new creatives. Why didn't we test new creatives? Same exact reason that we didn't do retargeting. And the same reason we didn't break down by country is basically because what we had was working so well, it did not make sense to just branch off and just start doing random things because it could work better. Literally what we had, it could not have been working better. Like, it was doing really, really well. So we just wanted to run with that and actually scale rather than continue testing new things, which I feel like is a place where a lot of people mess up when they're growing a store. Is they have this mindset that they always need to be testing new things, which means they never catch up on their testing. You need to be able to identify what testing is and what scaling is, because they are not the same thing. Scaling is basically doing more of what's working, and testing is trying to find something that works. So if you're doing all this testing, you're testing products, you're testing creatives, yada yada, you're not focused on scaling. Now, this doesn't mean, well, you can't scale if you don't have something that works. So that's the whole point of testing. You basically test until you find something that works, and then you scale based off of what works. You don't test to find something that works and then keep testing. No, that's not how I do things. I like to find something that works and then take advantage of it while it's working. You wouldn't believe the amount of people that I see who spend, let's say like $1,000 trying to find one creative that does it does well, and then they'll just go continue spending money on trying to find new creatives that could do better when they already have something that's working good, and they don't take advantage of it, and they lose out on a shitload of money just because of that gotta test mindset. So this next question is about lookalikes, which was basically, what was the lookalike strategy? Like, where were we going with the lookalikes towards the end of the video? And we were just kind of making lookalike campaigns as if they were the CBO campaigns that we were making previously. So we kind of wanted to keep up that flow of making one campaign every 2 to 4 days at that time. So we basically started with, page view, and then we went to add to cart. And what we would do is the same budgets that we started with, and then we would put all 10 percentages. So each percentage was each ad set was 1 percentage. So we would do 1 through 10%. So 10 ad sets, one of each percentage, $10 a day budgets, which is what we started with, which is what worked. If you're doing 5, then you want to do $5 budgets or 20 or whatever. And we would basically let it run for 2 days and then cut all the ad sets that didn't work, and then we would just not touch it and let it go. This worked pretty well, and I still do this to this day. I know that this was like 3 or 4 months ago when we grew this store, but this still works pretty well, just making a campaign with all 10 ad sets, all 10 percentages. And I didn't do the 0 to 1%, 1 to 2%, 2 to 3. I strictly did 0 to 1, 0 to 2, 0 to 3, 0 to 4. That's just what I've always done. I've just always preferred that method. And a lot of people talk about audience overlap, but that's honestly never been an issue for me, not a single time. And the last question is, what caused the store to die out? Is it still running? Just kind of an update on that actual store and what happened to it, because if you look it up, it'll take you to either a completely different store or it'll just take you to nothing. Basically what happened was, after Wes came to Miami to meet up with me and Tanner, and we did that video for my channel, basically like 2 days after that, on my flight home from Miami to my house, basically Facebook purged a bunch of people's ad accounts in one day and started disabling ads, disabling ad accounts, business managers, all that kind of thing. Honestly, this is something similar is happening right now as I'm making this video, which kind of sucks, but it was happening at the time. So I was literally at the airport getting a shitload of messages from people like, yo, my ads are disabled, I don't know what to do, yada yada. Like 40 different people. I had to have one of my assistants go in and like message all my students and stuff because it was so hectic. But literally, this is ridiculous, and I'm not even joking when I say this, but a day before this was not the best day on that store. I think it was the worst day that we had in a while, which was kind of like foreseeing the following few days. One ad got disapproved, and not even the ad as a whole, but just one ad in the ads manager. So every single ad set had its own ad, just one ad under one ad set got disapproved. And that seemed to spiral the whole ad account out of control, basically in a spiraling downhill, where the cost of purchase pretty much doubled, which was still, profitable, but we could tell that it was not going good. So we started testing, basically testing again, trying to get something to spark up again, new ad account, different types of lookalikes, new posts, basically everything that we could to try to revive this thing. And a lot of other people lost their winners during this time as well because of the whole ads getting disabled and ad accounts getting disabled. It was really a pain in the ass, and the reason for that is because if something gets shut off and turned back on, it's in my belief, or it's kind of a theory that I created because I see it happen so often, that when something gets disabled or turned off or deactivated and then turned back on, it kind of forces it to re-optimize. I have a few videos on this. If you look at my keys to optimization video, I talk about it. But that's basically what happened. And after that, the ads were never the same. That beautiful cost per purchase and the beautiful 6 ROAS just disappeared pretty much overnight because of, one single ad getting disapproved. There was literally nothing different. We didn't make a new campaign before. We didn't change anything on the website. Our product didn't go out of stock. Like, there's literally nothing out of the ordinary except for that one ad getting disapproved. So, I don't want to point fingers at the ad and be like, oh, it's all the ad's fault. But, there's only so many things that you can point fingers at. It definitely wasn't the method, because I was doing the same exact method with somebody else at the time they never hit 10K days, but they hit like 7 or 8K. And they were fine pretty much. The whole thing was a big mess. But obviously walked away from it, growing this awesome store with an awesome guy. And, we got dropship vids fast out of it. It was a good situation for everybody. So yeah, if you want more questions answered about this specific series, go ahead and leave them below. And make sure you leave a like, because it'll help boost this video. And we can help more people with this, growing the store from 0 to 10K a day live, which is fucking amazing. I'm so happy that, I got all that on camera. Still kind of blows me away thinking about it now. If you have questions, just leave them in the comments. And if you haven't watched the video yet, and you have no idea what I'm all talking about, make sure to click the link in the description and actually watch the video. But as for this one, this is Noah Brewer, and I'm out. Peace.